honor of Thanksgiving, which is approaching in a few weeks, and as a celebration of fall with all the wonderful things we have available, what better time to discuss the making and the proper making of pumpkin pie. So what I want to show you today is just how to do the filling and how to protect the crust so that you get a nice crust and it's not soggy. And we're going to talk about what type of pie plate to use and how you prepare the pie crust after it's made. We're not going to show how to make the pastry at this time because you may have your own special pastry that you want to use, and you know, different people like to use different types of pastry. So we're just going to talk about the filling today. And right here I have the things that you could use to make a pumpkin pie filling with. This is something fast and convenient. This is just cooked pureed pumpkin. It happens to be organic, which is lovely. But if you wanted to do it the old-fashioned way, I thought I would show you how to do that as well. And you can see I have two items on the table. This is what's known as a pie pumpkin. You can see how small it is. It is not like the kind you use for Halloween. And this is a Hubbard squash. And a Hubbard squash looks a lot like a pumpkin, but you can see it has a little pointy thing here. And sometimes they're gray or bluish. They both are the same in terms of baking for a pie. It doesn't matter which one you used. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cook both of these, and I'm going to show you how to cook them. Many years ago, when I clearly had more free time on my hands, we decided to do the Great Pumpkin Pie Bake-Off, and I did a pie made 100% with Hubbard squash and 100% made with pumpkin, and then I did one that was 50-50, and then we tasted them to see which one we liked the texture and the taste of the best. And just to save you a lot of time, because I know nobody else is going to do that, we decided that the 50-50 was the best pie. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So we're about to cook our pumpkin and our Hubbard squash, and the first thing we have to do is cut them both in half. Okay, so we've cut our pumpkin in half, and as you can see, the orange color of the two are different. So this one actually will cook to a really rich orange, and this will be a milder orange, and it doesn't really matter because we're going to mix the two together and it will have the normal pumpkin color that people are looking for. So the next step is to then get a pan, and I wanted one that was big enough to fit all four, and I'm just going to put all four into the pan like this. Whoops. And I've already got a little bit of water in. Now I'm going to pour a bit more water in. You don't have to have a lot of water. This is going to cook in the oven for about, an hour and a half, depending on the temperature, depending on your oven, until this is soft. And you can tell when it's done because you're going to poke it with a fork, and I'll show you that later. And then all we're going to do is cover this loosely with some foil. Okay? You don't have to cover the tin, you just have to cover the pumpkins. It can be very loose, it doesn't have to be tight. And we're going to put this in the oven at 350 degrees and bake it for at least an hour until it's soft. Okay, so we've got these coming out of the oven, and as you can see, they have darkened. If you touch this, you can see how soft this is. Okay, so now all we have to do is let this cool, and then we're going to scoop the seeds out, and then we can scoop the actual meat of the pumpkin and the squash out to make the pie. So now that the pumpkin and the squash are cool, we're going to take the seeds out very gently like this. Just put them on a piece of paper towel. You can wash these off and roast them if you like with some herbs or some sea salt and pepper. Make a nice snack. You want to get all that gooey stuff in the middle out. And we're going to weigh this so that we can see how much this is equivalent to a can of pumpkin. So I have a scale here, and I'm turning on the scale, and it's going to take the weight of the bowl out. And now I can scoop this out, It's very soft, so you have to be careful because it goes right through the skin. So I'm going to do this very carefully. Now you can see the texture of this. We're going to do the squash in a minute. You can see the difference in the texture of the squash. So now that we've scraped out our pumpkin and our squash, we've got about 400 grams here, which is about what you would get when you scraped out a can of pumpkin. So I'm just going to quickly measure that to show you exactly how many cups that is, in case you, because I'm quite sure most of you don't have a scale. So there's 1 cup, and it is about 2 cups total. Okay, put that one in there. So this is a generous 2 cups to equal the amount of pumpkin you get in a can. For those of you who don't know, traditionally pumpkin pie is made with yellow brown or dark brown sugar, which we have here in the middle. We also could make it with sucanat. So what sucanat is, it's basically the sugar cane that's been juiced, and as a result, all the nutrients are still there except for the fiber. It doesn't perform exactly like sugar, but for the purpose of the pie, it would perform really nicely. So again, this will be a taste preference. Sucanat has a stronger molasses flavor than, say, yellow sugar. I've got it beside what is known as evaporated cane juice. Sometimes this is marketed as raw sugar. Sometimes sucanat is marketed as raw sugar. It gets very confusing, so I just put this here so that you can see the difference. If this is what you had in your house, and you didn't want or you couldn't find an organic yellow sugar like I have here, then what you can do is mix the two together and you'll get about the same taste as you get with this. So those are your options, and it's up to you. You could use maple syrup, you could use coconut sweetener, it's up to you, but traditionally it is yellow brown sugar. And I just want to correct one little piece of information about yellow brown sugar. A lot of people think it's white sugar with molasses added back in. It actually isn't. It is part of the process towards white sugar. So as they were going from this to this, they stopped here. And that's what yellow brown sugar is. So it still has a fair bit of nutrients in it. You can tell from the color. This still has nutrients in it as well, but not nearly as much as the sucanat. But this has not been bleached or processed with any chemicals or anything like that. So, you know, if this is what your choice is, it's fine. Let's talk about what we're going to use to thicken the mixture and have it bake solid. In a traditional pumpkin pie, we use eggs, which is fine. If you're eating eggs, that's great. It is the best choice. There's a lot of nutrition in an egg, including the egg yolk with wonderful vitamin A and D and essential fatty acids. So if this is your choice, this would be the best one to work with. However, if you have an allergy to eggs, or perhaps for whatever reason you're avoiding eggs, there are 2 options, and we're going to test these later today. I've never tested these in a pumpkin pie, but I'm going to test them and we'll see the results later. But I have worked with these both in muffins and cakes, and they work very well. There are commercial no egg egg replacer products. They're made usually from different types of starches. This one has potato starch and tapioca starch, and it usually has some type of gum or some kind of gelling agent that helps things bind, because an egg yolk, or an egg white I should say, has a lot of jelliness to it. And so this one is, you can see the texture of it. It's fairly runny. It doesn't really look like an egg. And this is 1 teaspoon of the powder to 2 tablespoons of water, and that's standard for most egg replacer products that I have seen. This is not the most common one out there. There's another one from Kingsmill that is probably easier to find, but the reason I picked this one, it has no cornstarch in it, and it's the only one I've ever come across that says you can make a meringue out of it. It has a special recipe on the back for making meringue, which is very unusual for an egg replacer product. The other option for a more whole food is ground flax. So you can see the texture here. It's very jelly-like. It's very much like an egg. I've gotten some really good results with this, using this in muffins, and so we're going to see how it works in the pie today. But this is 1 tablespoon of flax seeds ground in a coffee grinder, and then you add 2 tablespoons of water, mix it together and let it sit. And as it sits, it gets kind of jelly-like because of the soluble fiber in the pie. A traditional pumpkin pie recipe often has evaporated milk that is used, and it's usually 50-50 with cream. I've been doing it 50-50 with whipping cream because I prefer to buy organic, and I can't get easily other creams that are lower than whipping cream, but you could do it with an 18% cream. There is, or was, a evaporated organic version of this, but I haven't been able to find it lately. So this is one way of doing it. Another way I've done it frequently is to use the canned coconut milk, not to be mistaken for the coconut milk that's coming now that's similarly packaged to soy milk and rice milk. It does not have enough fat content and it doesn't have the right gums in it. But I found that either the light coconut or the full fat coconut used in place of the evaporated milk works just fine. And so you can do half cream and half coconut milk. Now if you want a dairy-free option, you could do all coconut milk, and depending on the thickness of your, I find this brand is very inconsistent when it comes to having the same consistency, but depending on the thickness, you could use all light coconut milk, or you could do 50% light coconut milk and 50% full fat coconut milk. So it's your choice. It will work no matter how you do it, because it's the gum that they use in this particular type of product that helps it duplicate the same benefit you get from the evaporated milk. So those are your options, and that's it for the milk department. So now we're going to put the pie together, and we're going to sort of just mix this up like this. Get everything all mixed together. And I've measured out the liquids that I'm using, 50-50, and I'm pouring this in. I'm going to mix this around a bit. The reason I'm doing that is to get this a little wetter so that I can make it smoother. So now our mixture is more or less smooth. I'm going to add some more milk. I'm going to start adding the sugar. If you find your pumpkin made from scratch a little too hard to mix, you can push it through a sieve or throw it into the food processor before you start making the pie. I've added all the sugar now. That was 1 cup of yellow sugar. As I said, we have about ½ cup of evaporated milk and ½ cup of cream, or it could be a whole cup of coconut milk, or whichever you prefer, or half whipping cream and half coconut milk. It all works. Now we're adding our spices. We've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a teaspoon of sea salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. If you want a slightly earthier flavor, you could also add a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. Some people also use cloves, but it's a personal taste preference. See how it turns in a very dark color. I'm going to add the rest of our milk. And you can also add the eggs if you like at this time. Now some people will beat the eggs ahead of time. I'm lazy, so I'm just going to put them in like that. I'm going to break the egg yolks. You can see there's part of the egg white still there. You got to get that all mixed in. Okay, so you can see how smooth that is. Very liquidy, but very smooth. So now we're ready to put the pie together. As you can see, we have a whole grain spelt crust pastry here, and I will be doing videos as to how to make this exactly, and of course the recipe for this is in the book, A Pastry Queen Goes Green. But this is the most important part when it comes to making a pumpkin pie. You can see how liquidy this is, and so you need to put a barrier between the liquid and the pie crust in order to get a nice crisp pie crust. So what you can do, first of all, when you've made your pie crust, or if you've bought a pie crust, have it at refrigerated temperature, not room temperature, not frozen, refrigerated temperature, just before you do this. You're going to add egg white. And the reason I like this particular pie crust is because it's made with an egg yolk and it frees up extra egg white. You get a little bit up into here, and then you're going to just take the excess and pour it off like that. If you have more than one pie, you've got more egg yolk to do that with, or sorry, egg white to do that with. And then you're just going to put the pie in like so. And now it's going to bake at 400 degrees for at least 20 minutes to cook the pie crust. And then once the pie crust is cooked, we're going to lower it to 350 degrees or 325, depending on if you have a hot oven. I have a hot oven, so I lower mine to 325. And then once the filling is set, the pie is done. It will puff up a bit as it's setting. It won't be jiggly anymore. It won't be wet anymore, but it might be a little jiggly when it's cooked. But I'll show you that when it comes out of the oven. I just wanted to show you this for the alternative. So I just made up this goo based on the recipe they have on that egg replacer box that I showed earlier for meringue. So when they have a recipe for meringue, they added pectin to the actual egg replacer powder to make it more gooey like an egg white. So I've made this up, and I'm going to be doing some alternative fillings just so we can look at them later. And for the vegan one, I'm going to put this in instead of the egg white, and I'm going to see how it works and see if that gives us a nice crust, because that could be the answer for replacing the egg white in this. But needless to say, if you're not worrying about that, the egg white is best. And now the pie, as you can see, is baked. You can see that it's cooked around the edges. There's a little bit in the middle that it's a little shiny. That's okay, because when you shake it, you can see there's no liquid. And what's actually going to happen is this puffy part is going to collapse because of the eggs, and this will be flat and it'll match what's in the center here. If I had let this cook all the way out so that it was flush, it could have easily cracked when it goes back down. So this is actually not a bad thing to have happen. And it's always going to vary on the thickness and the how liquidy your pie filling is as to exactly the topography you're going to get when it's cooked. But the way to judge is just give it a little shake, and if it's jiggly, you're done. So now we have all our pies done. You can see that the original pie has flattened out. This pie here is the same as this pie, only it's made with coconut milk instead of evaporated milk and cream. This one is made with all the same ingredients as this one, except instead of an egg, it has the flax seed water mixture. And this one is the same as this one, except instead of an egg, it has the egg replacer. I would have to say that these two came out just fine. They're very... This one, we'll have to see. It just came out of the oven. We have to see if it sets up. It was still a little too jiggly when I pulled it out. As I said, I've never used the flaxseed in water before, but I can actually see the little flecks of the flaxseed in there. But anyway, we're going to wait a bit and let this cool a bit, and then we're going to cut a piece and we're just going to compare the textures. Here is the end result. We have 4 pies here. Yes, some of them are a little weird shaping, but that's because of the baking dish that we chose to use. So here's the original. This is the main pie. This is the one made with egg replacer powder. This is the one made with coconut milk, and this is the one made with the flax water egg replacement. As you can see, they all work. They all sit nicely. This means that you can mix and match any way you see fit, and choose whatever food ingredients you like, and you'll get a lovely pie that's nice and light and creamy and delicious.